Hello, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about the finance and funding options available to Bryan School Master's and Graduate Certificate students. I am Jennifer Kiger Chapman. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Recruitment here at the Bryan School of Business and Economics, and I work very closely with Ms. Savannah Martin, who is our other graduate recruiter. Our primary role throughout this process is to help our applicants and interested students learn more about the school and help you throughout the application and admissions process. Part of that is helping to answer your questions, and we tend to get a large number of questions around the finance and funding options available to students. So that's why we created this webinar as a resource to help interested students learn more about their options. A quick note about the information resources that we're going to be sharing with you. This webinar was created by myself and Savannah as a resource for students interested in master's and graduate certificate programs. The presentation will focus on finance and funding options used by current Bryan School graduate students. So for more information or details about the resources that we're going to be discussing, we encourage you to please reach out directly to the contacts listed on each slide. Here's a brief overview of what I plan to chat about. First, I'm going to share a little bit about the Bryan School and a little bit about Spartan Central, which is the main hub of information for our current students. Then I'll be sharing specific information for domestic applicants, including the tuition and billing timeline, finance and funding options, and advice from current students. Lastly, we're available to help answer any and all of your questions. So if you have any questions after watching the webinar, you're welcome to call us, text us, email us. We offer daily one-on-one meetings. We hope that you'll reach out because we want to make sure that you get the information that you're looking for. So first up, to share a little bit about the Bryan School. The Bryan School of Business and Economics is just one of several colleges and schools on the campus of the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Here at the Bryan School, we have a little over 4,000 students, with about 3,700 of those being undergraduate students and close to 700 graduate students. We've been a business school for over 50 years. As such, we have over 30,000 alumni, with 73% of them residing within the state of North Carolina. 72% of our master's and certificate students do choose to study online. And I think that's because a lot of our students are working and looking for that flexible online format. I'm happy to share that our online courses are all completely asynchronous, so you can engage in the coursework on the day and the time that works best for you. 76% of our master's and graduate certificates students are from North Carolina. However, we do have a very healthy international population, and 93% of our graduate students are employed within 6 months of graduation with an average salary of $81,900. UNC Greensboro is a minority serving institution. That's because more than half of our students come from a minority background, so you'll find a lot of diversity in the classrooms. UNCG has been ranked #1 in North Carolina for net cost in 2025 by the New York Times. I'd also like to share a few other rankings with you. We've been ranked #1 part-time MBA in North Carolina by Fortune in 2024, #2 on campus MBA in all of the US for greatest resources for minority students by the Princeton Review. We've been ranked #3 best online graduate computer IT program in North Carolina by US News and World Report, and #2 online MBA in North Carolina for veterans by the US News and World Report. Now I'd like to introduce you to our academic programs and leadership. We offer 6 master's and 18 graduate certificate programs. Leading our MBA program, which is our largest program, is Ms. Tuisha Fernandez Stack. She also oversees the graduate certificates in business foundations and marketing. Alan Rogers, who is also a graduate of our MS in IT and Management program, leads that program as well as the 8 graduate certificates offered. Jess Bankhead leads our Master of Science in Accounting program, as well as the Certificate in Taxation. Jess Bankhead is also a CPA, so if you're looking to earn your CPA license, he would be a great resource for you as part of that program. Dr. Jen Su leads our Master of Science in Retail Studies program, as well as their 3 graduate certificates. Dr. Martijn Van Hasselt leads our Master of Arts in Applied Economics program and their 3 graduate certificates. And Dr. Vladislav Maximov leads our Master of Science in International Business program and their graduate certificate in Global Leadership and Strategy. I'd also like to point out that those last two programs that I mentioned, Applied Economics and International Business, are only available online. So if you're looking for an on campus program but want to study those areas, just let us know and we'll help you choose one of our other programs and share with you how you can still focus on those areas. We have a wonderful group of graduate student ambassadors that have been nominated by their programs and volunteer their time to share the student perspective with you, interested students. So if you'd like to meet them, I encourage you to visit bryan.uncg.edu/grad ambassadors. There you'll find a profile about each of our ambassadors from across all six of our programs, as well as a short video introducing themselves. So I do hope that you'll take the time to learn more about them. In addition to our finance and funding webinars, we also offer application webinars on a monthly basis, monthly graduate student panels, daily one-on-one meetings, and recruiter Q&As. And then lastly, once a month, we offer what's called a virtual information session. This is an opportunity for you to get to meet the program faculty and current students, and in some cases, alumni from your programs of interest. You'll get a complete overview of the program from start to finish, as well as an overview of the types of positions our graduates are moving into. By attending that session, you can also earn an application fee waiver. If you're interested in learning more about any of these opportunities, I encourage you to visit go.uncg.edu/Bryan Grad to sign up. Now moving on to Spartan Central. As I mentioned earlier, Spartan Central is the hub of information for our University of North Carolina Greensboro students. You can visit it by going to spartancentral.uncg.edu, and here is just a little screenshot of what the main page looks like. As mentioned, this is the primary source of information, so everything I'm even going to be mentioning in this webinar can be found on Spartan Central. It includes things like tuition rates and fees, payment plan options, course registration, academic calendars, financial aid options, and visa requirements. Now I'm going to share the specific information for domestic applicants. Those are the ones that are residing here and from the United States. And I'll share now about tuition and billing. So in order to talk about finance and funding options, you need to first understand how the tuition and billing process works so that you know when you'll be expected to make payments. So I'd like to just provide a brief overview of that. Once you submit your application and it's completed, it will go into the application review area where the admissions committee typically takes about 2 to 4 weeks to review your application and get an admissions decision for you. Hopefully, it's the admissions decision that you're looking for. You'll get a notification, typically via email, to log back into your application portal to see that decision. And then right after that, you'll get an email as a welcome from your program director with your next steps. And your next steps at that point are to submit your intent to enroll, confirming your plans to attend, meet with your academic advisor to select your courses, and then ultimately register for courses. This typically happens by term, and I'll share a calendar about this on the next slide. Then, once you're registered for courses, you will receive a tuition bill and your financial aid will be processed. Lastly, the semester will begin. So as you can see, you need to first register for courses before you can receive a tuition bill and your financial aid can be processed. I do also want to note that scholarship and graduate assistantship notification can happen at any point after the admissions decision. So if you receive your admissions letter and there's no mention of a scholarship or a graduate assistantship, that's okay. None of them mention that. That award typically happens after the admission step, and it can happen anytime all the way up to and into the beginning of your first semester. Now, here's a brief calendar view of that tuition and billing overview. Now, for the spring term, we're typically accepting applications starting on July 1st, and they're due generally on November 15th. It may vary by program. That deadline, as I mentioned, is November 15th. That's also when course registration begins, and tuition bills also start going out at the same time because there's such a quick turnaround there before the spring semester starts in January. For the summer term, again, applications open on July 1st and they go all the way through April 1st, which is the final deadline for summer applications. We do also have a priority application deadline for the summer, which is March 1st. Now we're on rolling admissions by term, so we'll start reviewing applications in January for the summer term. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you'll get admitted, and the earlier you can start meeting with your academic advisor and registering for your courses. Then your tuition bill will typically be released starting in mid-April through the beginning of the summer term, which is in late May. For the fall term, our applications once again open on July 1st, so you can apply as early as July 1st or 2nd, all the way through June 15th, which is the final deadline for many of our graduate programs. We do also have a priority application deadline for the fall term, which is March 1st. That priority application deadline is for financial consideration. So if you want the absolute best opportunity for scholarships and graduate assistantships, we recommend applying by that priority deadline. Course registration starts in early April and goes all the way through late July, and then tuition bills start going out in June and then ultimately through the first day of classes in August. Now I'd like to share with you about your estimated program costs. The program costs and calculating those for your total program can be kind of confusing when you're comparing different programs. So we want to try to make it as easy and as transparent as possible for you. So I'm going to share two methods. First is this estimated method where we've done the math for you and you can kind of use these numbers for your planning purposes. But then I'll also share how you can calculate it on your own using the tuition tables provided by the cashier's office. So first, the estimated program costs we've included are on your program's webpage. You can find your program's webpage by going to bryan.uncg.edu/programs. That webpage looks a little bit like this. You'll click on your program of interest, and in this example, I'm going to select the MBA program. Once you do that, then it'll pull up the program webpage, which looks like this. Along the top of the page, you'll notice that there are several tabs, including one that says Program Costs. So you can click that tab, Program Costs, to find the estimated program cost. We've broken it down by on-campus and online if your chosen program offers both of those options. And we've even broken it down by whether or not you're designated as an in-state North Carolina applicant or an out-of-state applicant. And so hopefully you'll find this a little bit easier to manage as you're looking for the total estimated program cost. Now, if you're interested in calculating it for yourself, I invite you to visit Spartan Central to view the tuition rates. You're going to see the tuition rate table that looks like this. It's the rate table per semester, and there's different rate tables for on-campus or online, so make sure you select the one that you're looking for. Across the top of the page, you'll notice that it's asking how many credit hours you plan to take in a given term. It also wants to know, as you go down the rows, what your tuition classification is, whether you're a North Carolina resident or a non-North Carolina resident. The totals are there in yellow, but then you'll also notice there's additional fees and tuition differentials towards the bottom of the page. Again, I just want to note that this is per semester. And so when you're calculating this amount, you'll need to know how many hours you'll take each semester and how many, for instance, are required for your program, and then which of your programs includes tuition differential. Now, here at the Bryan School, we do have tuition differential on all of our programs. This is an additional amount of money that our Bryan School graduate students pay per credit hour for all of the additional services that they get as a Bryan School student, such as your one-on-one career coach, professional development opportunities, all of the business partnerships, the alumni connections, and a whole lot more. And a lot of those things are what's helping to drive those high percentages and higher salaries for our students coming out of the program. All of these tuition and fees are subject to change pending legislative approval because we are supported by the state of North Carolina. Now, here's a brief overview of those estimated costs by program. We've gone ahead and pulled them into this presentation so that you can take a look. So, for instance, if you're planning to study on campus in the MBA program as an in-state student, this is the total estimated amount of the program. If you plan to study over 2.5 years, you would say, okay, that's 5 semesters. So you would take that amount and divide by 5, and that would be the amount that you would typically be having to pay each semester. Now, I'd like to take a minute to share about the tuition rate categories that I mentioned. The state of North Carolina does partially subsidize the tuition costs for residents in the state of North Carolina. This residency status is determined by something called the North Carolina Residency Determination Service, and you can visit their website at ncresidency.org. You can also contact them at the email address and phone number here on your screen. The tuition rate categories that are designated are called in-state, out of NC, and out of state. In-state is typically for those residents of North Carolina. However, your military affiliation can also help you qualify for in-state tuition rate. The out of NC rate, you can typically request this if you are a non-North Carolina resident residing outside of North Carolina and enrolled in an online program. And these students must complete the RDS survey to qualify for the rate. So just let us know if you have questions about that. And then for the out of state rate, this is typically the rate paid for students who are outside of the state of North Carolina. In particular, international students that are here studying on an F1 visa will pay the out of state rate as well. Now, it is possible to get reclassified after you're enrolled in the program, so just keep that in mind and reach out to either the North Carolina Residency Service or the cashier's office for help with that. Now, a note about the fee bills and timeline. And again, all of these details are going to be on Spartan Central and on the cashier's website. You will typically receive a fee bill only for the tuition and fees for your enrolled courses. So you must be admitted, confirm your enrollment, and go through academic advising before you can enroll in a course and receive a fee bill. You have to have a fee bill then before your scholarships and financial aid can be applied to the fee bill. Here's an approximate timeline for new graduate students. For fall enrollment, course registration begins in late April. Your fee bills are typically sent in early July, and payment is due in early August. For spring enrollment, that typically course registration begins in mid-November, as well as the fee bills at the same time, and payment is due in early January. And then for summer enrollment, course registration typically begins in mid-February. Then fee bills are sent in mid-April, and payment is due in early May. Now, you'll typically receive a fee bill notification in your email, and you can log into what's called UNC Genie to access and review your fee bill. This is typically accessible to admitted students, so you'll get your username and password once you're admitted and confirm your plans to attend and get those login instructions. You can always visit the cashier's website for the actual dates and deadlines for your semester of interest. And this is the cashier's office contact information and their hours that they're open. Now we'll move on to the finance and funding options, the reason you're sitting here listening to this webinar today. We surveyed all of our current Bryan graduate students and asked them, how are you currently paying for your program? And we were overwhelmed by receiving almost 300 responses. And we found that close to half of our students are using direct payment, so they're paying as they go as part of the program. About 1/3 of students are also using a monthly payment plan. As you can see here, about 1/3 are also using US federal loans. There's a small percentage using US lenders, and there are a few others using non-US government lenders, as well as an international lender, which I'll share in the international portion of this webinar. Everything you see here in blue is information, funding sources that do not need to be repaid. That includes the Bryan School scholarships, the UNC Greensboro campus-wide scholarships, there's external scholarships. Then we have graduate assistantships, both here within the Bryan School and campus-wide graduate assistantships. There's also employer funding options and military assistance. So there's a good number of our students who are using those resources, and I'll talk about each one of those resources now. First up is federal financial aid, and you can learn more about this process at their website, which is right here on the slide. Typically, you would apply for this by completing the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. In order to be eligible, you need to be a U.S. citizen, but some others can be eligible. You need to be enrolled at least part time, which is 4.5 or more credit hours, and enrolled in an approved graduate program. Typically, to complete the process, you will apply online through their website, fafsa.gov. Then, once you're admitted, your records will sync up with the financial aid office, and then they'll reach out to you with your financial aid package. The types of aid typically offered to graduate students are federal direct student loans. Typically, there's an annual max of $20,500 and a lifetime max of $138,500. And then there are federal direct graduate plus loans. These are, if you're interested in borrowing above the limits that I just mentioned, you can also apply for these graduate plus loans to pay for additional things like living expenses, laptops, and things like that. There are no income requirements, but you must pass a credit check in order to be eligible. Please note that graduate students are not eligible for federal Pell Grants or state need-based grants. So if you got that as an undergraduate student, that is not typically awarded at the graduate level. Now on to direct payment. Our cashier's office accepts direct payment through credit card, electronic check or bank draft, mail by check and money order, in person by cash, check, and money order payments. You can make direct payment through UNC Genie, which I mentioned earlier. That's the system that will be accessible to you once you're admitted and confirm your plans to attend. The cashier's office also offers payment plans and deferrals. These are especially popular among applicants and students who are planning on having their employers pay for their programs, or if they're in the military and want to defer their payments. Payment deferrals are also available for graduate assistants. So if you plan to use your graduate assistant funds to help pay for your tuition, you can reach out directly to the cashier's office and work out a payment plan with them. If you just want a payment plan in general, there are two plans that are available. There's a 5 payment plan and a 4 payment plan. They each require a deposit and a one-time setup fee. You can contact the cashier's office for more information. Now onto those employer contributions. As you saw, a significant number of students studying here at the Bryan School in our graduate programs do have employer assistance, either partially or fully. And so these are some of those employers that have been told to us by our students. If you're an employer-sponsored student, you may be eligible to defer the payment of your balance that's covered by a third party. So please feel free to reach out directly to the cashier's office to make arrangements if you'd prefer to do that. On to military benefits. We are a very military friendly school here at UNC Greensboro. We have the largest number of military affiliated students studying here at the Bryan School, and veterans and military affiliated students receiving benefits through the VA are eligible to receive financial aid according to your student type. So you can reach out to our military affiliated student services office if they have not already reached out to you, and their contact information is right here. Private loans are also an option for students. Typically, these do not require the FAFSA, but they are credit-based loans offered by private lenders to help you finance your degree program. Usually, this does require good a credit history and/or a cosigner, and it can be more costly than federal education loans. So just make sure to consult with a trusted friend or family member to help you in making these decisions. Now on to scholarships. So UNC Greensboro and the Bryan School offer scholarship opportunities, and they are limited and highly competitive. Every single incoming student is considered for scholarships based on their graduate program application. If you'd like to submit your application by the priority deadline, which is March 1st for the fall, then you would get priority consideration for those scholarships and graduate assistantships. I do also want to note that although March 1st is the priority deadline, all applications, regardless of when they're submitted, will receive scholarship and funding consideration. But for the best consideration, we recommend submitting and completing your application as soon after the priority deadline as possible. Scholarship decisions, as I mentioned earlier, are made after the admissions decision, and notifications are sent throughout the year. There is no set timeline for those notifications, and those scholarships typically range from 500 to 2,500. Now, once you're admitted to your program, you'll also have the opportunity and get access to what's called Scholarship Universe, which is available at uncg.scholarshipuniverse.com. So once you're admitted, you confirm your plans to enroll, you'll get your UNCG login credentials and be able to access this area. You can complete a brief profile, and then it will let you know what additional scholarships you're eligible to apply for. Now I'll talk about Bryan School graduate assistantships. This is an opportunity to work on campus up to 18 hours per week in one of our professors' offices or in one of our other offices on campus. Example positions include research assistant, marketing and recruitment assistant, or administrative assistant. The average stipend for our graduate assistantships here within the Bryan School are $3,500 per semester. These positions are limited and highly competitive, and priority application deadline is March 1st. Please note that Bryan School graduate assistantship decisions are made after the admissions decision, and notifications are sent all throughout the year. To help give you an idea of how many of those there are to go around, in the year 2022-23, we received 210 graduate assistantship requests. 28 were awarded, so you have about a 1 in 10 chance to get one, because that 28 also included returning students. Now, once you're admitted, you also can apply for campus-wide graduate assistantships through Spartan Talent. So you can visit spartantalent.unc.edu and apply for any of the graduate assistantships there. Lastly, I will share some of the advice that has been shared by our current students with you, and I'll let you read these on your own after the webinar. Lastly, you'll find in the slide deck available on the webpage where you're probably watching this a PDF, which includes links in this final slide to all of the different available resources that we just talked about. So I do hope you found this helpful. I am honored that you're considering the Bryan School for your graduate education, and look forward to helping you throughout the process. Have a great rest of your day.